Do you know the history of your local church? Or maybe you belong to a denomination. Do you know the history behind your denomination? I don't know if you've ever thought about that before, but actually, Christian history is one of the most important things that we can ever know about as Christians. So, today, what I want to do is just give a sketch of the history of Free Will Baptist, just hitting a few points here and there. And in part, this is because of I'm the pastor of Grace Church here in Dixon, Tennessee. And Grace Church has just recently, in the last few months, officially joined the Free Will Baptist denomination, the National Association of Free Will Baptists. And what I want to do is just give a little sketch, maybe to help some people, both in the church and out of the church, to understand the history of Free Will Baptists. Now, the main thing, of course, when you think about a church or a denomination, if it's a true church preaching the gospel, having church discipline when needed, carrying out the ordinances of the church, well, the history of that church goes all the way back to the Bible. And that, of course, is what's really important. At the same time, it is important to understand different beliefs, different practices, and denominations as we have them today. So I am an ordained Free Will Baptist minister. I'm very thankful for that. I grew up in the Free Will Baptist Church. And today I want to give just maybe three main points about the history of Free Will Baptist. So let's talk about, number one, a little about our roots. Where does our roots come from? Is it just a few decades ago? Is it something new that happened maybe in the 40s or 50s or even the 1990s? Where did our denomination, the Free Will Baptists, come from? Well, the fact is there's a rich history about Free Will Baptists. It goes back, our roots are traced back as far back as the First Baptist Church in the 1600s. The First Baptist Church being around the year 1610. We trace our heritage back to what is called the English General Baptists. The English General Baptists, back in the early 1600s. So over 400 years is where we trace our history back to. And you may have not heard that term General Baptist before. Well, the term General Baptist means that there is a general atonement. In other words, Christ died for everyone. He died to make salvation available to every person. And General Baptist and Free Will Baptist believe that. We believe that Christ died for every person. And I believe that is the clear biblical teaching, that Christ has made himself a sacrifice for the sins of the world, and we are to call all men to come to Christ. And this was in distinction when you compare the General Baptists to the Particular Baptists. So a Particular Baptist came in a few decades after the General Baptist. The First Baptist Church was a church that believed in the general atonement of Christ. A Particular Baptist, on the other hand, believed that Christ died only for the elect, only for certain people, not the whole world. So Free Will Baptists trace our heritage back over 400 years to the English General Baptists. Secondly, let me talk just very briefly about our early American history, if you will. And that is beginning in the state of North Carolina, 1727. Paul Palmer is a minister, and he begins to pastor or plants a General Baptist church in North Carolina. This was 1727, very much influenced by the English General Baptists. And from there, we would see Free Will Baptist churches later on become into existence. In the North, in Free Will Baptists, and this is normally what people think of when they think of the Free Will Baptists in America, is in 1780, Benjamin Randall would begin to preach and have a church in New Durham, New Hampshire. And he would preach, and Free Will Baptists in the North would come from him. So the Free Will Baptists in the North have a rich history, very influential, wealthy, Frederick Douglass would say something like this, that he felt welcomed at the churches as a freed slave in the Northern movement. Sadly, around 1911, the Free Will Baptists, because liberalism in the North had creeped in, most of the churches would join a liberal denomination, and yet there's some remnants of the Northern Free Will Baptists left. So fast forward a few years now to 1935, and that is the beginning, with two groups coming together, the beginning of what we would call now the National Association of Free Will Baptists. That began in 1935. They met at Cofer's Chapel in Nashville, Tennessee. One of the pastors of my home church in Kentucky, Tom's Creek Free Will Baptist Church, was a brother by the name of Brother Millard Van Hoos. He was present at that first meeting in 1935, and that's where the present day denomination comes from now. And there's other groups in Free Will Baptists that don't belong to the National Association, but the majority of Free Will Baptist churches belong to the National Association of Free Will Baptists. The church now, the Free Will Baptist Church at this time, has about 1,900 members. And not only 1,900 members, or 1,900 churches rather, and about 110,000 members in North America. So that's just a very brief sketch of the Free Will Baptists, their beginnings in the General Baptist in England, from early American time and now to present time. The Free Will Baptists very much believe in the authority of Scripture. They're very much committed to the gospel and to salvation. And maybe one day we'll talk about the beliefs and practices of Free Will Baptist churches. But that is a sketch of our denomination. Hope you're having a good day, and may the Lord bless you today.